Here is a centimetre grid. Draw two more lines to make a quadrilateral with an area of 18 centimetres squared. So a quadrilateral is a four-sided shape, and we can draw two more lines here. That way we have an area of 18 centimetres squared, because we can split what we've drawn, split our quadrilateral, into a square here and a triangle. So because the square has side lengths of 3 centimetres, 3 times 3 is 9. So the area of the blue square is 9 centimetres. And then, to find the area of a triangle, we multiply the base by the height. So the base is 3 centimetres and the height is 6 centimetres. But then, after we've multiplied the base by the height, we need to divide by 2. So 3 times 6 is 18, divided by 2 is 9. So because the square has an area of 9 centimetres squared, and the triangle also has an area of 9 centimetres squared, that means the total area of our shape is 18 centimetres squared. Kate has some rectangles. They each measure 16 centimetres by 50 centimetres. She makes this design with 4 of the rectangles. Work out the lengths x and y. So we know that this length here is the width of a rectangle, so that's 16 centimetres. And that means 16 plus x is 50, because 50 centimetres is the length of a rectangle. So if we subtract 16 from 50, that means that x must be 34 centimetres. And now here on y, we can see that we have 16, we have the width of a rectangle here, and we have 50 here because that's the length of a rectangle. So what length is here? Well, we know that the width of a rectangle is 16, and we can see that the space here is the same as the width of a rectangle. So to work out y, we have 16 plus 50 plus 16, so that's 82 centimetres. Here is part of a number line. Write the missing numbers in the boxes. So we have 0 and 200 marked on our number line, and to get from 0 to 200, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps. So because the difference is 200, if we divide 200 by 4, so by the number of jumps, that tells us that each of these little lines on our number line represent an increase of 50. So we have 0, 50, 100, and then where our arrow is pointing, that's 150. So this line here will be 50 before 0, so that's minus 50, and then this arrow must be pointing to minus 100, because that's 50 less than minus 50. Shortcrust pastry is made using flour, margarine and lard. The flour, margarine and lard are mixed in the ratio 8:3:2 by weight. So what that means is that for every 8 grams of flour, you will need 3 grams of margarine and 2 grams of lard. So how many grams of margarine and lard are needed to mix with 200 grams of flour? So the ratio is 8:3:2, and the first number in the ratio is the flour. And we know that there are 200 grams of flour, so we can write 200 below the 8. So now we need to think 8 times what is 200? Well, 8 times 25 is 200, and we can work that out because 200 divided by 8 is 25. So we need to do the same to find the amount of margarine. That's the second number in our ratio. We have 3 times 25, so that's 75. And then to find the amount of lard, That's 2 times 25, so 50. So that means if we have 200 grams of flour, we need 75 grams of margarine and 50 grams of lard. Here is a sequence of patterns made from squares and circles. The sequence continues in the same way. Calculate how many squares there will be in the pattern which has 25 circles. So if we look at the number of circles, we can see that we have 2 more each time. So that means to find the number of circles from the number of squares, we must multiply by 2 and then add 1. Because 1 times 2 is 2, but 3 is 1 more than that. 2 times 2 is 4, and then we need to add 1 to make 5. And 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we know that we need 25 circles. So what times 2 plus 1 is 25? Well, if we work backwards, we can subtract 1 to get 24, and then divide by 2 to get 12. So that means if we have 12 squares, we'll have 25 circles. 12 times 2 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So that's 12 squares. Now for this question, we could just continue the sequence. So we can see that the number of squares is going up by 1 each time, and the number of circles going up by 2. So we could continue the pattern, and then we'd see that if we have 12 squares, we have 25 circles. The arrow below points to the mean of the 3 numbers shown by crosses. So remember, the mean is the average, and the mean is calculated by adding up the total of what we have and then dividing by the number of things. So our total is 6 plus 2 plus 1, so that's 9, and because we have 3 crosses, we can divide the total by 3, and that tells us that the mean is 3. So now draw an arrow that points to the mean of the 3 numbers shown below. We have 5, 14 and 17. So first, if we work out the total, that gives us 36. And because, again, we have 3 crosses, we need to divide the total by 3, and that means the mean is 12. So we can draw our arrow here. Now, the arrow below points to the mean of 3 numbers. One of the numbers is missing. Draw a cross to show the position of the missing number. So we know that the mean is 3, and because there are 3 numbers, that means that we've divided the total by 3 to get 3, and 9 divided by 3 is 3, so our numbers need to give a total of 9. Now we have minus 4 and 6. So minus 4 plus 6 is 2, but then to get 9, we need to add another 7. So that means our other number is 7. The mean of minus 4, 6 and 7 is 3, because if we add minus 4, 6 and 7, we get 9. Minus 4 plus 6 is 2, plus 7 is 9. And then if we divide 9 by 3, because we have 3 numbers, that gives us a mean of 3. 427 children visit a castle. They go in groups of 15. One group has less than 15. Every group of children has one adult with them. How many adults will need to go? So we need to divide 427 by 15. And the easiest way to do this is to count up in steps of 15 until we get to 427. So one group is 15 children, which means if we multiply both the number of groups and the children by 10, that 10 groups is 150 children. If we double that, 20 groups will be 300 children, and then 30 groups, if we add 150 plus 300, that's 450 children. So we're doing 10 plus 20 to get 30, and 150 plus 300 to get 450. But that's too many, because there's only 427 children. So let's subtract one group. If there are 29 groups, that will be 15 children less than 450. So 29 groups will be 435 children. If we subtract another 15 children, so another group, 28 groups will be 420 children. But this is less than 427. So if there are only 28 groups, you'll only be able to take 420, not 427 children. So that means there will be 29 groups. That means 29 adults will need to go. The other way of working out 427 divided by 15 is to use long division. So we can work out our 15 times table, and I usually like to stop at 5 times and then look back at the question. So taking the first two digits together, we have 42 divided by 15. The closest number to 42, which is still less than 42, is 30. 45 is too many. So we need to write 30 under the 42, and because that's 2 times, we can write 2 in our answer line. So now we subtract and bring down. So we have 127 divided by 15. If we continue our 15 times table, we can see that 8 times 15 is 120. So we'll have 8 remainder 7. 8 times 15 is 120, but 127 is 7 more than that, and we don't have any digits to bring down. So our answer is 28 remainder 7, but we need to round that up to 29, because the remainder is 7 children, and all of the children need to go on the trip. So for these remaining 7 children, we'll need an extra group. So there will be 28 groups of 15, but then one extra group of 7 children. So that's 29 groups, or 29 adults altogether. This is Kirsty's recipe for breakfast cereal. 50 grams of oats, 30 grams of raisins, 40 grams of nuts. If she uses 125 grams of oats, how many grams of raisins does she need? So we know that in her recipe, she needs 50 grams of oats for 30 grams of raisins. So if we double the number of oats, 50 times 2 is 100, and 30 times 2 is 60. So for 100 grams of oats, she would need 60 grams of raisins. But we want to know how much she needs for 125 grams of oats. So we need another 25 grams. Now 25 is half of 50. If we divide 50 by 2, we get 25. So we can divide 30 by 2, and that tells us that for every 25 grams of oats, she needs 15 grams of raisins. So we know that with 100 grams of oats, she needs 60 of raisins, and for 25 grams of oats, she needs 15 grams of raisins. Now 100 plus 25 is 125, and that's the number of grams of oats that she needs. So we can work out the number of grams of raisins by adding 60 and 15, so she needs 75 grams of raisins. The other way of working this out is to first find half of 50, so find that 25 grams of oats is 15 grams of raisins. And then, if you know 25 grams, you can multiply by 5 to get 125. And 15 times 5 is 75, so that tells us that she needs 75 grams of raisins. 1 gallon is approximately 4.5 litres. Mrs. Smith buys 8 gallons of petrol. How many litres of petrol does she buy? So if there are 4.5 litres in each gallon and she buys 8 gallons, we need to work out 4.5 times 8. So we copy down our decimal point and then we can use short multiplication to get 36.0. But if we have 0.0 on the end, we have a whole number. So our answer is 36 litres. N stands for a number. N plus 7 is 13. What is the value of n plus 10? So if n plus 7 is 13, 13 minus 7 is 6. So that means the number that n stands for is 6. So to work out n plus 10, if n is 6, that's 6 plus 10, so 16.